Right, looks like we are going live. Welcome everyone. Just give me a few clicks here to get going, get everything set up, get everything open, all the windows, chats and comments. All right. Let's go and switch over to PC. Welcome everyone. And let me go ahead and start a recording. Cool. So, hello everyone and welcome to CC Design on, what is this today? Wednesday. We're going to be talking about how to create or design a magazine cover. So, welcome everyone. I see Victoria, Muhammad, Werner, and everyone coming into the room in the chat thus far. Welcome. We're going to go ahead and switch over to my computer so you can see what I'm doing. And Anessa, welcome as well. And we'll get right into it. As a matter of fact, let me just switch one thing real quick. All right, let's do that. And we are live. All right. So with that said, welcome everyone once again. Today is Wednesday. We're going to be doing here on the CC Design channel, how to design or create a magazine cover from scratch. And as you can see, I'm as from scratch as I could be. I have no document open. I'm going to be doing some of the work in Photoshop. I may finish it in Photoshop, but I tend to want to finish things like magazine covers in Adobe Indesign. So I have Indesign kind of waiting there as well. And we'll do the initial work in Photoshop because that's where it needs to be done. All right, Brandon, welcome as well. And who is this? This is MJ Nardelli. Welcome, hello. And D Woods Photo just joined as well. So welcome everyone into the chat. And let me go ahead and get started and show you what we're going to do. So first thing I want to do is I'm in Photoshop CC. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new document. And you'll notice when you create a new document, you can just specify something from scratch here, but you've also got some categories that will kind of help you along by giving you some preset document sizes to work with. So if I go to photo, I get kind of photographic documents like 5x7 or landscape 4x6, so forth and so on. But if I jump over to print, then I get standard page sizes, and that's kind of what I'm aiming for today. So I'm just going to make a one artboard or one document 8.5 by 11, but we're going to change the size of it. We're going to up it a little bit more. We're going to give ourselves a little bit more room for a bleed. And I'll explain what a bleed is as we go. So instead of an 8.5, which is the standard US letter size, I'm going to do 8.625. And instead of 11 or just 11, I'm going to do 11.125. So I'm just giving myself a little bit more room on that 8.5 by 11 for what we're going to call a bleed. All right, so document background is white. I don't care about that. It could be transparent, doesn't matter because I'm going to bring an image onto it anyway. And we'll just go ahead and create our document. So now there's our document ready to go. We know that that's the right size for our finished cover, or actually for our almost finished cover. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and start bringing some content onto that. Now I've got an Adobe stock image that I'm going to use. It's this kind of fashion-y image. I'm just going to drag that on. But they didn't know I was going to use it for a magazine cover. So the problem with this particular image right off the bat is she's not, the image is not tall enough. So I can scale it up. I don't have to live with it at this size and I won't hurt the resolution too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold down my shift key, grab one of the corners and scale it up a bit. But even when I do that, I don't want her hand all the way at the top of the image, although I could, because I'm going to have the headline of the magazine up there at some point. So I'm going to bring it down to about right here, but I also kind of want that gray color in the background. So I can do that a couple of different ways, because remember we started out on white. So I can either just sample the gray like so, and then fill my background with that color. So I'm just going to switch to the background and hit Option or Alt Delete, and that will fill it in. But I'm getting kind of that grayish line because the gray background that she was photographed on isn't a solid one continuous color from top to bottom. There's lighting going on. So it's lighter in the middle, darker along the edges. So I could either, there's lots of ways I could fix this. I could say, okay, let's say I wasn't going to do it on the background. I could take the top of the image and just simply stretch it up to the top. So I can, for example, grab the marquee tool, grab not the very tippy top, but I'm just going to grab a section of it from that. And now that I got that section, I'm going to go ahead and just hit Command J on Mac, Control J on Windows. That will give me that section as its own layer. So now that I got that section as its own layer, I can go ahead and just simply free transform it. Command T and free transform it up to the top. So lots of ways to do this. One way doesn't necessarily have to fit all. Oops, I kind of didn't free transform that over to the side enough. I didn't select it over to the side enough, but there we go. And that kind of blends in a little bit better. Now, I know a lot of you are fans of layers and you want to keep your layers, you know, all the time. I don't need that layer, so I'm going to get rid of it. Command E, that would normally put it down at the bottom, but this is a smart object. So let's go ahead and kill that smart object first. I don't need that to be a smart object right now. And now we'll just go ahead and Command E to bring that down. Okay, so now that's our new layer. We still have the gray background. We don't need it necessarily, but we still have it. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to get the text into this document. Now I've got the word fashion here. And I got that in the library and I already spec'd it out. Problem is, fashion is the name of a magazine. So I don't want them to get mad at me for using the fashion magazine branding in my tutorial. So I'm going to change it to something else. Let's get rid of that for now. And let's just double click on this and let's change it from fashion to, I don't think there's a magazine called just simply clothes. All right, we'll just leave it at that. We'll keep it something so basic and so simple that I'm sure that's just not a branded thing. All right, so we got our clothes in there. We'll go ahead and save that. And now I can go ahead and bring that over. All right, so we got our clothes, name of our magazine, and we can go ahead and scale that up a little bit bigger. And we got that in place, but here's what most, ooh, did I cut that off? Hang on, I cut that off. So hold on. There we go. Yeah, I cut it off on the side there. Hang on. Let's just move that over. I don't want the C to be cut off. There we go. That's better. That'll automatically update. Okay, so what you'll find with most magazines is you don't want, or I shouldn't say don't want, I will say it's a trend to actually have the text behind the subject. So it'd be great if we could have had, you know, her on no background and just put it right on top of the word clothes, but she is in fact on a background. So here's the way we cheat that. There's several ways you could do it. You could mask out pieces of the word clothes. That's a lot harder in my opinion. Or you could just simply make another copy of her layer and cut her out. And that's, to me, the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to just simply take the fashion model layer, duplicate it by dragging it down to the new layer icon. So if I go over here in my layers, you can see that now we've got two of the same layer. I'm going to move that layer up top. So of course the word clothes disappears behind it because it's sandwiched in between. Now we're going to take the one on top and simply cut it out. So we'll go in and we'll simply say that we want to do a quick select, but we're going to use the new select subject so that we don't have to keep clicking around quick select. Now, select subject, I know is going to have some difficulties with this image because there are parts where like her hand is cutting off the flow to the background. So let's see what it does. I'm just going to click select subject, look, no hands, and in a few seconds, it will select the subject. And like I said, I knew it would have some issues like in here because this was kind of cut off and it doesn't, you know, it's an algorithm. It doesn't know if that should be part of the subject or not, but that's no problem because we can simply fix that. Now, you have to keep in mind what's selected or what you want selected versus what you don't want selected. So I want her arm and her hat selected, but not this part of the gray background. So I'm going to hold down or hit my Option key while I'm on Quick Select. There we go. Hold on my Option key while I'm on Quick Select and just simply tell it not to select that part, to exclude that part of the image. Same thing up here, just click to exclude that part of the image. She's got some spots in between her fingers, underneath the hat, arm still in the hat. So I need to zoom in a little bit more, get a smaller brush, and just simply, oh, hang on, let's go back to Quick Select. And simply tell it to not select these little areas here. So again, holding down my Option key, clicking, and it kind of figures that out. It does a good job of figuring out or trying to figure out once you start clicking what you want. So I'm just going to go in. I probably don't need to go in this tight, but just to make sure that I get all this, I'm just going to go ahead and get all of that area. And again, I'm not having to really be careful. It's saying, oh, you don't want this, and then it kind of recalculates the selection. Same thing going on up here where it kind of missed part of her finger. We do want that finger because that's going to be visible up there on top of the word, close, and we don't want this stuff in between. And her fingers are almost touching, like there's almost skin there. So that's why it's having a hard time discerning what I would or would not want. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. Add that back in, add that back in, cut that little piece out. And okay, I think we're good to go now. Add a little bit more of that finger back in. Let's zoom out. And usually I do a quick once around the image. Oop, and I missed a spot down here where I would tell it, here, I probably want a bigger brush and zoom in, where before I tell it that I'm done. So let's do this real quick here. Subtract this from the selection by holding down the Option or Alt key. And again, just one or two clicks and it seems to figure out what I want. One more click there, good. Okay, so now that I got that selected, oh, and I see some more right here under the arm and the hair. It just kind of didn't know what to do in here. And we'll go back to Quick Select one more time. Now I'm not gonna worry about inside the hair. I'm gonna fix that in Select and Mask. Oop, one click too many. All right, so that's good. The rest is good. Down here, oh, I see a little bit down there. And just get that one little piece out there, and away we go. So Select Subject did most of the work for me. There was a little fine tuning I had to do. And I don't expect Select Subject to ever do a good job around hair or just tight areas where it just can't tell the difference. But it did a good enough job to get me going from here. So what I'm going to do now is go into its companion feature. So there's Select Subject, which is what we just did. We're going to move over now to Select and Mask. When I do Select and Mask, that will bring it up. I've got it set to show me a red mask. You could show it on an onion skin. You could show it with marching ants. You could show it as an overlay. You could show it on black. You could show it on white, so forth and so on. And some of these might be good to check when you think you're done to make sure you really are done. But I'm going to leave it on a red overlay for now. And now I'm going to go after some of those areas where I know it needs to be touched up a bit. So for example, I know under here there were some issues with the hair. So now I'm going to switch to the Refine Mask tool. And we're just going to say, okay, all of this out here used to be gray. Just going to use that target of gray to bring this hair back in. So I'm just using that refine brush to refine the edges of my selection. Same thing in here where I knew there were going to be issues. We're just going to use the refine brush to get rid of all that excess gray out of this area kind of magically and let it do its thing. All right, good, good, good. All right, cool. And up here, I see another little piece sticking out there, same kind of thing. We'll do our refine brush and make the brush a little smaller. Don't make the refine brush any bigger than it needs to be. It will do a better job when you do it that way. Same thing in here. Just kind of refining that edge a bit. And same thing around this finger. There we go. Where the selection might be a little rough. Now you can also turn on Smart Radius and give it a little bit of Smart Radius to work with, where it kind of refines the edge for you automatically around edges that should be sharp versus edges that should be soft. All right, that should be okay for what we're going to do. Now again, I want to just check it one more time on a different color like black, and I can see there's kind of like a little bit of a white halo on the image. And again, because she was on that bright gray background that was lit, so we're just going to do a little bit of a shift edge. We can do a lot of shift edge, but we're just going to do a little shift edge to kind of shift that selection inward. Now again, some of this is just the white reflecting onto her pants, and that's okay, but I don't want it to look like a white trace around the image. All right, so now that we've got that set up, and again, I may have still missed a spot. I may still want to go fine tune it. I see a little bit of roughness around the top of her arm up here. I still may want to go do some more to that, but that's okay. I can do that after the fact. I can now output the selection to a layer, new layer with a mask. Once I choose new layer with a mask, I can go ahead and click OK. Oh, sorry, click OK. And that will give us our new layer. Now, here's the thing you have to remember. The old layer is still underneath. So any spots you might have missed or not gotten perfectly won't matter because the other layer is still there. It only matters around the word clothes where her arm is literally not over the old one, where it's over something new. So I know there's some areas up here I want to just go up and take a look at. Same thing, we'll go to that new mask, we'll go to our brush tool, and we'll just simply, just going to paint some of that arm back in. I'll use my Wacom for that. There we go. Especially around the edges where the letters are. We just want to smooth that out a bit. Up here is looking kind of rough. And we can switch colors and go the other way. There we go. Smooth that out. Perfect. I just don't want a rough edge where there shouldn't be a rough edge. Now, chances are you're going to be more picky than the actual person that's looking at the magazine cover because they're not going to have the luxury. Oops. They're not going to have the luxury of zooming in on your image, so you should be good to go. I keep choosing the wrong color there. There we go. There we go. Fill that thumb back in a little bit. Fill that finger back in a little bit where I got a little carried away with the brush. And just around those edges to get them where I want them to be. Okay, it looks pretty good. Okay, so now we've got our image where she's now in front of our text. And that means that we're free to move our text around. We can go to our move tool. We can put any new text around that we want because it is literally behind her and she's in front of it, in front of herself. So that works out perfectly. Now, if you're just going to put her on a totally different background, then you wouldn't need to put the word clothes or the name of your magazine in the Photoshop file. What you could do is you could save it and just call it cover image, and we'll save it to the desktop. And now that it's been saved, I can head over to InDesign where I can go ahead and create a frame for it. And just make sure I'm on the right layer. Yep, on the right layer. I'm just going to create a frame. I'm going to go out to the bleed area of the of my magazine, and we'll just do a place. And we'll go to the desktop and we'll grab that PSD, and that'll bring it right in where all the rest of the text is sitting there and waiting for it. All right, and that becomes our magazine cover. So, some tips along the way. Besides cutting your image out, which was really the bulk of the work, to put it on top of the text. If you bring over just the cut out image with no background, then you're more free to make changes or move things around here in InDesign. But because I brought that over as a solid image with the text in it, then that means that I'd have to go back to Photoshop to make more changes to the actual text, which is not hard to do. This is all now in InDesign. So I've got an overlays layer here. I've got, oh, I think I locked it. I got an overlays layer that's locked. I can, of course, now put this wherever I think it works best and move this all around. And so what you're really trying to do is create a little bit of depth. So you've got something behind her, and then something in front of her. And that is how it's done. You'll also see in most cases on magazine covers where the text on the left is left justified, the text on the right is right justified. And again, this could be done either in Photoshop or InDesign. I tend to like to do as much of my text as I want or can inside of InDesign, just because it's cleaner and easier to work with. But certainly you could do the whole thing in Photoshop. You could bring it over to Illustrator and do illustrations on top of it. You could bring it over to InDesign, and of course do InDesign on top of it, or make it a part of the rest of the magazine. So with that said, that is how you would design a magazine cover. And again, a lot of it is more this modern, not really modern, it's been around for a while, but this style of putting part of your subject in front of the masthead for the magazine. And again, just your text treatments. You'll also see a mixture of serif and sans serif fonts. I'm not really a fan of serif fonts, but you'll see them a lot on magazine covers. You'll see really nice styles, and you'll also see some nice color treatments that usually match whatever the headline or the main article of the magazine is, to match whatever the color of the masthead is. All right, so with that said, I'm seeing all the comments here. People saying nice, thanks for the tips, you're welcome. And it's been my pleasure to walk you through how I would work with a magazine cover or design a magazine cover using Photoshop and InDesign. Again, doing most of my text work wherever I could inside of InDesign. So with that said, cheers everyone, take care, and thanks for watching. We will catch you on the next one. All right. Bye everybody.